March 15, 1944. Japanese Naval Intelligence Headquarters, Ada Communications Unit, Japan. Commander Atsuzo Kurihara fixed his gaze on the intercepted message, his third mug of harsh tea now untouched and cooling on the desk. Over the last 18 hours, he and his elite team of Japanese codebreakers had been working tirelessly to decipher what seemed like tactical communications from the U.S. Marine Corps, relating to their Marshall Islands campaign. The noises received through their equipment evaded all known analytical approaches at their disposal. Bassetti da Descartes. These signals were not mere static or random sound. The arrangement indicated organized military exchange, with timing occurring right before American assaults, lengths matching those of operational directives, and frequency patterns in line with recognized Marine Corps practices. In spite of this, the actual tongue used was beyond comprehension, unlike any reference in their voluminous archives on Allied signal systems. Kurihara led one of the globe's top signals intelligence teams. The Ada installation, situated 20 miles from Tokyo, was staffed by 500 workers all running 118 radio receivers and 20 direction-finding stations. His cryptological team had earlier managed to crack U.S. diplomatic messages. They had broken British naval traffic and numerous military ciphers. Their analysts had decoded the State Department's Purple Cipher prior to Pearl Harbor, supplying vital information to Japan during the decisive early years of the war. Yet when it came to these Marine Corps messages, their cryptanalytic prowess was rendered useless. 3 years after hostilities began, and despite unraveling dozens of Allied encipherments, Japan's foremost specialists were unable to find even elementary regularities in these strange exchanges. What Kurihara failed to realize, and what no Japanese intelligence figure would grasp until well after the conflict ended, was that the transmissions he monitored represented the sole military code of the modern age never to be cracked. This account does not start in the Pacific Theater, but instead in America's Southwest, where the Navajo people for centuries sustained a language with no parallel anywhere in the world. Dina Bizard, the Navajo tongue, is part of the Athabascan linguistic group, with about 170,000 speakers as of 1940, nearly all living on their 27,000 square mile homeland that spreads across Arizona, New Mexico, Utah, and Colorado. The very traits of the language that would baffle Japanese codebreakers had taken millennia to evolve. Navajo relies heavily on verbs, with each action described via intricate strings of prefixes that can generate millions of combinations. Its phonology features 4 tonal distinctions: high, low, rising, and falling, which wholly transform the meanings of words. Even a small mispronunciation can mutate or completely obscure a sentence. The language's sound system includes elements missing from Japanese, English, or nearly any other language. Glottal ejected stops, a voiceless lateral fricative reminiscent of wind between teeth, glottalized sonorants, and nasalized vowel sounds. With Japanese language training covering only 5 vowels, their operators found it next to impossible to discern these Navajo phonemes. Philip Johnston recognized the untapped military value of such a linguistic barrier. Born in 1892 to a Protestant missionary living with the Navajo, Johnston acquired Navajo fluency as a child and was one of fewer than 30 non-Navajos able to speak the language at that time. At age 9, he already translated his father's preaching. By 15, he had journeyed to Washington, D.C., to interpret for Navajo leaders in meetings that included a visit with President Theodore Roosevelt. In December of 1941, as the U.S. was grasping the aftermath of Pearl Harbor, Johnston came across accounts of Army units employing Comanche language speakers in Louisiana maneuvers. The Choctaw had also contributed in World War I, although those uses were makeshift and minimal. Johnston conceived something transformative: a regulated military code based on Navajo, both indecipherable and suited to modern combat needs. On February 28, 1942, Johnston brought the idea to Major General Clayton Vogel at Camp Elliott outside San Diego. Their trial was striking. 4 Navajo men from Los Angeles relayed information while Marine observers measured the timing against standard message formats. The Navajo team finished in only 20 seconds, whereas the M209 cipher device took 30 minutes. General Vogel soon approved a test program. On May 4, 1942, 29 Navajo volunteers were enlisted at Fort Wingate in New Mexico. These individuals, among them Chester Nez, Carl Gorman, Lloyd Oliver, and John Beanerly, hailed from all over the reservation. Some went to boarding institutions where Navajo speech was prohibited and penalized. Others were lifelong shepherds who had seldom left tribal territory. Gathered at Camp Elliott, they spent 8 weeks inside a locked and closely monitored building devising a military code grounded in their own language. The challenge was daunting. Invent terminology for concepts alien to Navajo. Construct a phonetic alphabet. Guarantee ease of use and growth. They approached code construction through cultural parallels. A submarine was bestowed, an iron fish gliding beneath the waters. A battleship was called Lot Whale, referencing the vastest animal in the ocean. They named fighter planes Da, after nimble hummingbirds darting overhead. Bombers were labeled Jaisho, likened to buzzards floating in circles before striking. Inventing the alphabet took unique ingenuity. Multiple Navajo words were assigned for each letter to avoid frequency analysis. The most prevalent letter in English, E, was given 4 alternatives. Z, elk, Anna, iter, hair, ear. Code talkers would switch randomly among choices, erasing any detectable patterns. They came up with 211 original terms and committed them all to memory flawlessly. Using physical codebooks was out of the question due to the risk of enemy capture. Chester Nez recounted, "We practiced tirelessly. Any error could mean death. In our tradition, language holds power. Uttering words correctly was a sacred duty." The first field proof of the code occurred at Guadalcanal in August 1942. 15 code talkers arrived alongside the 1st Marine Division. The Japanese were anticipating the assault, as they had cracked other Allied ciphers. Yet, now, Marine battlefield messages turned unintelligible. At the Japanese 8th Fleet Command Center in Rabaul, intelligence staff hurried to interpret these messages. Lieutenant Kazuo Yamada, who studied at Stanford prior to the conflict, noted, "The noises show linguistic structure with steady patterns, but correspond to nothing. Not English, French, Dutch, Spanish, or any Philippine or Chinese dialect. Entirely foreign." The Japanese acted methodically. Elite cryptanalysts were assigned. Hundreds of hours of transmissions were put on wax cylinders. All possible decryption strategies were attempted. They reached out to university language professors and Buddhist monks versed in antiquated tongues. Every effort failed. On November 8, 1942, code talker Chester Nez sent coordinates for artillery, destroying a Japanese machine gun post. The message, lasting 14 seconds, was captured but was just unintelligible sound to Japanese listeners. Within minutes, U.S. artillery struck exactly as intended. Colonel Haruo Konuma, 17th Army Intelligence, wrote, "The Americans introduced a cipher that defies our every measure. We can't forecast assaults. We are blind." Joe Kailamia, a Navajo taken at Bataan in April 1942, became Japan's leading chance at cracking the code. While he spoke Navajo fluently, he was unaware of the military code being made. As Japanese intelligence began intercepting Navajo communications, they sent Kiyomiya to the Ana interrogation facility. Code talker messages were played for him. Kailamia recognized the Navajo language yet not the nonsense mixtures. The turtle attacks the iron fish. The hummingbird carries eggs. His failure to interpret led to accusations of deceit from his interrogators. Torture increased steadily for months. Water torture, beating, arms suspended for hours. One winter in 1943, he was forced to stand nude on snow until his feet adhered to the icy ground. Weakened to 90 pounds by hunger, he received offers of food in return for translations. Through all this, Kamya could only insist on the truth. He grasped the Navajo words yet not their intended usage for war. Japanese intelligence records from May 1943 show their exasperation. The detainee seems native to the mystery language, but remains unable to parse the content. Judgment. Either exceptional resistance, or the enemy employs a unique code within their tongue, demanding specialized training. The latter conclusion was accurate. Not even fully fluent Navajos could decipher it without instruction. Kamya endured 3.5 years imprisoned. His inability to aid convinced Japanese analysts that their challenge was unprecedented. By the end of 1943, they had mostly given up on breaking the Navajo Code. Triumph at Guadalcanal prompted immediate scaling up. Major General Alexander Vandergrift declared, "The Navajo Code men have demonstrated immeasurable worth. Their codings are faster than any machine and absolutely safe." An official Code Talker course was created at Camp Pendleton, training new classes every 8 weeks. When the war concluded, between 375 and 420 Navajo Marines had performed Code Talker duties in all 6 Marine Corps divisions. Their training was unlike anything previously in the Marines. Trainees worked in soundproof cubicles as instructors recreated battle sounds. They sent messages while wearing gas masks and running until exhausted. Thomas B., who joined at 15, said, "They demanded more than we thought possible. Lives were on the line with our precision. The code was always adapting. Every new technology needed fresh terminology. The atomic bomb was named Ayashi, metal egg. Kamikaze flyers became Neti, death wind. Each update made sense to Navajo users but was impossible for outsiders to understand." By the middle of 1943, Japanese intelligence focused significant effort on cracking the code. The Imperial Navy's 4th Department assigned 30 cryptography analysts solely to these communications. Captain Yoshiro Tanaka employed novel tactics, analyzing musical tones, comparing transmissions to Native American audio, and seeking input from experts who had studied in the United States. They engineered unique recording devices to slow down communications without changing pitch. Visual representations of sounds were created using oscilloscopes. They conducted statistical examinations of frequency usage and patterns. Lieutenant Commander Masao Yamada later disclosed that they were able to detect certain recurring features, likely call signs, and a relationship between length of messages and operational complexity. But not grasping the language meant these insights were of little practical use. Japanese command instructed troops to capture marine signal operators alive. Bounties of 10,000 yen, equivalent to a decade's pay, were announced for recovering Code Talker gear or documents. Multiple nearly successful attempts occurred, but no Code Talker was apprehended with their gear intact. The Central Pacific operation highlighted the strategic significance of the Code Talkers. At Tarawa in November 1943, 6 Code Talkers sustained communications throughout 76 hours of intense fighting. Lloyd Oliver sent transmissions for 48 continuous hours, organizing naval bombardments even while under relentless shelling. In the Mariana Campaign, 24 Code Talkers ran communications non-stop at Saipan. Lieutenant Commander Takashi Hirakawa had managed to decode usual radio traffic to foresee the assault, but after Marines made landfall, tactical intelligence suddenly disappeared. Colonel Takashi Saito remarked, "Commanders felt cut off from the intelligence they relied on." At Paleleu, Code Talker Jimmy King spent 6 hours sending messages during a counter-assault after his teammate was killed. He was responsible for directing artillery for 3 battalions, relaying 40 messages with perfect accuracy under direct attack. The fight for Iwo Jima marked the greatest achievement of the Code Talkers. Major Howard Connor was in charge of orchestrating the opening assault entirely in Navajo Code. 6 teams of Code Talkers ensured unbroken communications across the invasion's crucial opening 48 hours. General Tadamichi Kuribayashi had spent 2 years preparing, building a subterranean stronghold with 11 miles of tunnels. His defensive strategy depended on intercepting American signals as a trigger for counterstrikes. This approach ended in complete failure. In 48 hours, the 6 Code Talkers sent and received upwards of 800 error-free messages. They organized the landing of 30,000 Marines, directed naval gunfire from 100 ships, provided close air support, reported enemy sites, arranged medical evacuations, managed supplies, and carried out tactical commands under non-stop enemy attack. Major Connor later stated, "If not for the Navajos, the Marines could not have captured Iwo Jima." He added, "During those initial 48 hours, I kept 6 Navajo radio nets staffed continuously. They transmitted and received over 800 flawless messages. The entire mission operated with Navajo code." Colonel Shigo Hayashi told Kuribayashi that American codes remained impervious to decryption. Artillery requests in Navajo, completed in 20 seconds, would have otherwise taken 30 minutes. That margin often determined whether positions were secured or lost. At Okinawa, 35 code talkers synchronized the Pacific's largest assault, coordinating 183,000 troops over 82 days. The Japanese attempted to jam and mimic the code, but could not match the unique tonal features of Navajo. Lieutenant Hiroshi Miyamoto's efforts at imitating the code, according to code talker Alfred Newman, sounded like someone gargling while speaking. On August 14, 1945, code talker Teddy Draper sent the war's most crucial message, Nama Adajini Adanil, Japanese surrender. The message was sent via Navajo before passing to regular channels, providing a fitting conclusion to the code talkers' efforts in the war. Following the war, American interviewers uncovered the scope of Japanese attempts and their utter lack of success. Lieutenant General Seizo Arisue, who served as Japan's top intelligence officer, confessed, "We were never able to solve the Marine Code. While we deciphered Army codes, Air Force codes, and diplomatic communications, the Marine Tactical Code remained absolutely safe." Captain Yasuji Kawamoto provided specifics. "We logged thousands of messages. Our most skilled linguists analyzed them over 3 years. None of our efforts succeeded. It represented our greatest failure in cryptanalysis." In 1944, analysts had noticed that the sound patterns pointed to Native American languages. They asked for German support, yet wartime obstacles and German unfamiliarity prevented any headway. Colonel Masao Yamada admitted, "Our inability to interpret the Marines' communications led to thousands of deaths. Every operation after 1942 was a mystery until it commenced." Major Hiroshi Tanaka, who lived through Iwo Jima, recounted the psychological effect. "We couldn't decipher their speech. It made us feel uncivilized, defeated before combat even started. The conclusion of the war did not relieve the code talkers of their burden. The initiative remained a classified secret in case it was needed during the Cold War. When code talkers returned, they were not allowed to share their service with anyone. They came home to states that prohibited them from voting until 1948 in New Mexico and Arizona, and until 1957 in Utah. Businesses such as hotels and eateries refused them service. They were celebrated as heroes, but couldn't disclose their achievements." Chester, the final member of the original 29 who passed away in 2014, wrote, "We were warriors who helped secure victory, but we who could not speak about it. The weight was immense. Many sought recovery through traditional rituals. The enemy way ceremony cleansed fighters of war's spiritual harm." Dan Yerke elaborated, "We had employed our language to target destruction. We required it for restoration. These rites reminded us of our language's sanctity." In 1968, the operation was unclassified. The initial public recognition occurred in 1969 at a 4th Marine Division reunion. President Reagan named August 14, 1982, as National Navajo Code Talkers Day. The most profound acknowledgement came on July 26, 2001, when President Bush awarded the Congressional Gold Medals to the original 29 in the Capitol Rotunda. At that time, only 5 original members were still alive to be present. Bush stated, "Today we celebrate 29 Native Americans who gave a service to their country only they were able to provide." Chester replied, "We were ordinary individuals assigned an extraordinary mission. We used our sacred language in the war effort. While the Navajos are the most recognized, 14 additional tribes also contributed code talkers. Chow was the originator of the idea in World War I. In the Second World War, 17 Comanche Code Talkers operated in Europe, arriving during D-Day. Hopi, Cherokee, Lakota, and others also offered their languages. The Code Talkers Recognition Act of 2008 honored every tribe involved. John Brown Jr. reflected, "They told us our language was worthless. Then, that same language was essential for victory." The code proved how advanced Native American languages are. Code Talkers modernized Navajo in the moment, inventing new grammatical forms and adapting metaphors for military usage. Its agglutinative structure permitted conveying complex notions in a single word. English required paragraphs, yet Navajo communicated the same in brief phrases. Dr. William Morgan commented, "They refuted the idea that indigenous languages are primitive. Navajo was shown to be capable of expressing all things, from rituals to warfare." The Navajo Code introduced a layer of cultural encryption made possible by language that mathematics alone could not defeat. This affected post-war intelligence work. The principle retains its relevance as quantum advances endanger mathematical encryption. Colonel David Hatch assessed, "They accomplished the unprecedented. A code untouched, never breached. It gave proof that human language abilities can outpace machine-based encryption." During the 1980s, Japanese scholars investigated their failure. Professor Tao Yoshikawa revealed that 30 cryptanalysts worked on decoding these signals for 2 years, liaising with several universities. Captain Minoru Yamada stated, "It was clear by late 1943 we dealt with a Native American tongue, but we could not pinpoint which one." Lieutenant Commander Shigeru Fukumoto confessed, "The idea of employing a native language was so basic, so refined, that it never occurred to us." In the 1990s, photographer Kenji Kawano photographed surviving Code Talkers. Through exhibitions in Tokyo and Hiroshima, he brought their narrative to Japanese audiences. Code Talker Albert Smith told those in Japan, "We were both fighters. My language was used to defeat you, but now it aids mutual understanding." In 2010, the Japanese Association of Intelligence Studies held a symposium featuring Admiral Hiroaki Arb. The Navajo Code stands as flawless encryption. Even with Asia's premier codebreakers, we failed utterly. Chester Nez, the final original 29 member, died on June 4, 2014. Currently, only 2 Code Talkers survive out of the roughly 400 who served. Thomas H.B. and Peter MacDonald, neither in the original 29 yet indispensable for successful code operation. Peter MacDonald, at age 96, remains an active speaker. "We demonstrated that America's strength is its diversity. Our multiple languages and heritages form our power. The Navajo language, once suppressed, today is celebrated as a strategic asset." Federal programs reference the Code Talkers' contribution. Native youth now reclaim ancestral tongues with fresh pride. Dr. Jennifer Dennedale remarked, "Code Talkers changed Native Americans' self-image and the nation's view of their people. They proved our languages are not relics, but living, valuable assets." The Navajo Code Talkers accomplished one of the greatest feats in military history, constructing a code the Japanese never deciphered throughout World War II. Somewhere between 375 and 420 Navajo Marines took part, transmitting tens of thousands of error-free messages while under fire. The deeper importance comes from what they stood for. American Indians defended their country with an indigenous language the government once tried to destroy. Young men from marginalized groups supplied skills that even the most advanced allies lacked. Japan's setback was not just a matter of tactics, but a profound oversight. They anticipated American technical prowess and codes, not the Americans' diversity, languages and cultures beyond their reach. An empire that proclaimed racial superiority, in part, was undone by that precise diversity. General Arisue's admission that Japan never unlocked the Marines' Code acknowledged the difficulty in facing an adversary whose strength grew from sources beyond comprehension. The Code Talkers embodied a version of America that Japanese ideology could not grasp. They showed that America's true might was not its industrial output, but its diversity among people. The array of languages became a battlefield advantage. The Navajo language that boarding schools once tried to suppress became pivotal for the Pacific victory. As the last code talkers fade into history, their story persists. What was once a forbidden language is now taught proudly. Native veterans are now acknowledged for their service at the highest per capita rates. Diversity's role in strengthening national security is an accepted tenet. Across Pacific battlefields, unmistakable Navajo voices sent a message that rose above mere tactics. America's strength is unity among many voices. Multiple cultures and languages together, aligned in purpose, but reinforced by their differences. The Code's resilience proves that what distinguishes us is not a liability, but a strength to be cherished, maintained, and employed in service of freedom. It was the defeated Japanese intelligence who perhaps grasped the scope most fully. Their failure confirmed a truth transcending military conflict. Certain codes defy any decryption, not because of mathematical intricacy, but because of the unfathomable depth of human culture. Though Japan never cracked the code talkers' transmissions, their most important communication was universal. Diversity fosters strength. Culture provides power. Native knowledge has a role in contemporary challenges. Young Navajo warriors who once used their sacred language as a weapon, now as a tool for peace, have proven that the nation's unbreakable safeguard is its diversity, a quality that cannot be decoded, because it arises from boundless human potential and wisdom. This unshattered code persists, living in every native child reclaiming their ancestral speech, with every acknowledgement that minority endeavors enhance the national character, with every recognition that our differences create greater unity. The code talkers demonstrated that variation among us is a gift to honor. The lasting evidence is that a chorus of voices, peoples, and languages, sharing purpose while embracing diversity, forges freedom's unbreakable code.